What's up, guys? My name is Jackson McMurray, guys, and this is No Nerds Allowed, guys.
What's up, everybody? I'm Adeline McMurray, and today we're going to be doing another Let's Play of Happy Wheels Extreme Version 2.0 Minecraft Edition.
Make sure you like this video, guys, and turn on the bell, guys, and...
It's just fucking obliterate that like button, dude. Hit that bell. Smash that subscribe button.
Anyway, actually, though, my name's Jackson.
Annihilate your computer screen.
Anyway, for real, though, my name's Jackson McMurray.
I'm Adeline.
And this is No Nerds Allowed.
Oh, I thought we already did this.
I thought we did, too. I don't know. I'll play it by ear. We'll figure it out.
Alright, cool.
I'll cut that up.
This is your final warning.
No Nerds Allowed starting in 3, 2, 1, now. Hey, Adeline, how's it going? What
that was a test. If you're a nerd and you're still here.
Yeah. So, Adeline, this is something I brought up with you semi-recently that I feel needs to be addressed.
Okay.
You've never heard of Bunnicula?
What?
You don't know what Bunnicula is at all. You have no reference for what Bunnicula is.
No, I have no idea what the hell. Is it like binoculars and also bionicle?
No, it's a book. It's a children's book. If you had to venture a guess as to what it's about, could you tell me?
No, it sounds like an advertisement for a drug that I've seen on TV for medium to severe plaque psoriasis.
It was a series of books. I'm going to open my web browser just so I can make sure I get this right.
Great.
About a pet rabbit who turns into a vampire. He turns into a Dracula.
You're making this up.
I'm not making it up. I'm really surprised that you've never heard of it before.
Is it a graphic novel?
No, it's a series of children's chapter books.
Okay, send me a picture of what the cover looks like.
Okay, let's see. Apparently there's an animated series in the UK right now.
The UK is all over old children's media right now, so that doesn't surprise me.
Let's see, I'm trying to find the one that I remember. Oh, here we are. That's the one.
You're just gonna send me a picture of like a butt or something?
No, it's real.
This is an extended prank on me.
It's so real. It's shockingly real. There it is. It's by Deborah and James Howe.
Yeah, hey Jackson, this is a prank still.
No, it's not.
You photoshopped this. This isn't real.
There were multiple
like Bunny and Dracula? Bunnicula?
Yeah, Bunnicula.
Why is that how you would combine those words?
It's a really good question. How would you do it?
Buncula? Without the I. It's the I's, because you have the whole word of bunny.
Right.
And the cula. But I don't get the cula out of Dracula, because I just say Dracula. I don't say Dracula.
If I remember,
I'm not a psycho.
If I remember correctly, the plot of it was that it was told from the perspective of that cat and the dog. They were the main characters.
Yeah, who look like the cat and dog from Animaniacs.
Yeah, exactly. And the family brings home this new bunny, but they're very afraid that it has been bitten by a Dracul, and it bites carrots and it sucks the orange out of them. Because it's a vampire.
Just like Marceline in Adventure Time. That's how you know it's true.
Is that a thing that happens?
She drinks the color red instead of blood.
Oh, okay.
And that's the only other time I've heard of something like that. Is that actually a thing?
What do you mean, is that actually a thing?
Is that a part of, Dracula lore?
I do not believe so.
Well,
Here's another one.
2 for 0.
Bunnicula.
Yeah, hey, this is still photoshopped.
A Rabbit Tale of Mystery by Deborah and James Howe.
Wait, so what? Is it just like the cat being like, hey, this bunny's bad news, and the dog's like, yeah, dog. And is that the whole book series?
I do not remember what happens. I believe we read the first one at read aloud time in elementary school.
Oh, yeah. Didn't you also read, Old Yeller out loud in elementary school?
It was Where the Red Fern Grows. Have we done any hot takes on where the red fern grows on this podcast yet?
I've never read the book. All I know is that he shoots his own dog. That's all I know about where the red fern grows.
No, that doesn't happen. That's not how it goes.
Oh, is that not how it goes? I thought he shot his dog.
No, what happens, this is the truth. This is the God's honest truth. One of the dogs gets killed by a cougar.
Oh, that's right.
And then the second dog dies of sadness.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's the deal with this?
Is dog blood, right?
A red fern grows over their graves, if that's what you mean, yes.
Yeah, it's dog blood.
Hey, what the fuck is up with that? Why does that happen?
Why would you write a story about that? Why is this what you want to put into the world?
And I mean, look, I will concede that I have not read the book since
elementary school.
Yeah, since I was in 3rd grade, which I suppose I was probably 7 years old. So my ability to critically analyze a story like that at that age was near zero.
I didn't really start being forced to read books until about high school. That I can remember coherently at least.
Right.
And I feel like the worst one that I was forced to read was when it was Things Fall Apart, which is that story about the African tribe when the missionaries come.
Oh yeah.
But they trick you into thinking that that's what the book is about, because that's actually a really interesting topic.
Right.
It's actually about Okonkwo murdering his adopted son and then accidentally murdering another kid. Right. And then being exiled while all of the cool stuff happens in the tribe. Like, where they all the conflict with the missionaries, you miss out on, because Okonkwo accidentally killed a kid. So he's just out in the wilderness abusing his wife and child. And then you come back, and it's like, hey, there's white people here now, and our society's being taken over. And he's like, wow, cool. Then the book ends. It's not a good story.
It's like in The Hobbit, where they're oh my god, check it out, there's 5 different fucking armies about to have this incredible battle. And then Bilbo fucking hits his head on the rock and he passes out, and then he wakes up at home later.
It's a lot like that, actually.
Yeah.
Because you think it's gonna be this, criticism of missionaries and colonialism, but it's not. You're just, stuck with this guy Okonkwo, who's kind of a shitty person, and you're just this is cool, I guess.
I mean, having not read the book myself, don't you think... Don't you think that's how you know it's a really good take, is when it starts that way?
Here comes the hottest take. Here comes Galaxy Brain.
I mean, don't you think that you could read it as saying that, that's the thing about oppression, is that, it strikes when you are not prepared to fight against it, that if in a situation like that, if you are distracted even for a second, like if you, for example, shot a kid, then suddenly it's all over for your whole society.
This is a lesson. If you accidentally shoot a kid, you are open to be oppressed.
Yeah. That was a genuine take. That was a genuine take interspersed with jokes. So
no, I get what you're saying. I don't remember the book super well, so I wouldn't remember any stuff like that. I just remember everyone in my class did not like it because it's also written in a boring way.
Right?
So
yeah. No.
Okonkwo hates both his sons, and his daughter's really cool, but he fucking hates her because she's a woman and can't do any of the things that she wants to do, so...
I had to read a short story by that guy. That's Chinua Achebe, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I read a short story by him in one of my classes, and, even that was oh my god. It's not that the content was bad, it was just, he has the driest, the most boring writing style known to mankind.
Oh, the lady who wrote Beloved passed away recently, and she's
Toni
awesome.
Morrison.
Yeah.
I didn't have to read Beloved
Shout out to Toni
either.
Morrison. She's great. What?
I feel like I didn't really have to read any of the really heavy books because I was never in, AP English.
Oh, yeah.
So, but on the other hand, I had to read Into the Wild, which is a really weird English literature choice. I don't know.
Is that the book that Justin hates? Or Travis hates? One of the McElroy brothers hates a book that they were forced to read in high school, and now I can't remember which one. It's
probably not that one. That book is fairly recent. I think it came out in the 90s. But it's a nonfiction book about a kid who was just fed up with all of society, so he just went out and lived in the woods, and he just successfully lived in the woods for 5 years until he accidentally ate some berries and died. It's a
I mean, that's what would happen, though.
Yeah, because that's what did happen. And, it's just because it's written by John Krakauer, and it's not fiction. It's all these accounts from people he knew, and he talks about his experiences and everybody that he met like during the time leading up to him leaving and all that kind of stuff. And it's a super good book. I really liked it. But it was also just, it's like not a literary classic, you know? Like, I don't know why we read it in my junior year English class.
Why did you read that?
Kristen Stewart was in the movie. So that's cool.
So that's how you know it's good.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, though, because,
Kristen
you know,
Stewart.
he talks
I don't
about,
have a problem with her. I don't know why I said that.
But it talks about how, like, you know, it's true he did, like, die out in the wilderness, but, like, I think he knew that going in, you know? He wasn't like,
he wasn't it's gonna be great in the wilderness.
Yeah, he wasn't like, I'm gonna go out in the wilderness and live to a very ripe old age before I quietly pass away in my sleep. It's like, he knew that, like, a few years in, something would probably go wrong and he'd probably die. That's what he wanted, you know?
Okay, I'm gonna say one more thing about reading stuff from our childhood, and then we'll talk about the movie. But when I was little, one of my favorite books I would read was The Boxcar Children. I don't remember why they're orphaned or whatever, but they're like 4 orphan siblings. I don't remember why they're orphaned. It doesn't matter. But, right. But so basically they're on their own and they find this boxcar. And the first book in the series is them finding this boxcar and basically living out this boxcar. And it's like this really cool story of them like making relationships in the town and like how they live in this car. And while they're living there, they like solve a mystery and it's really, really cool. But at the end of the first book, they get adopted by, like, a millionaire, and then it wasn't cool anymore. And then it was just like, we're a bunch of kids, and we solve mysteries, and we still have the boxcar, even though we live in a mansion now. And I'm like, you're no longer the boxcar children. You sold out. Like all the cool stuff about them living in the boxcar was just, like, totally gone. Like, the big brother had to, like, go out and work, and they get bread, and then, like, they had, like, this cool relationship with the lady that he worked for. Like, it was a cool story. And then they just get adopted by a millionaire and all the problems are over. It's
like if you wrote a book about me and called it The High School Boy. It's just
exactly.
It was apt at a certain point.
Yeah. But then it was over. Then you sold out.
So, Adeline, what movie did we watch today?
We watched Toy Story today. The OG, man.
Oh, did you watch Toy Story?
Yeah.
I watched Too Fast, Too Furious. I thought you said Too Fast, Too Furious.
I thought you said Too Fast Story. The story of Too Fast, Furious.
Fast and Furious presents Too Toy, Too Story.
This time, it's the same.
So we watched Toy Story, 1995.
Yeah. Well, because we watched Toy Story 4 with our whole family, and that just made us think about the original Toy Story. And Jackson's also just been watching all the Toy Story movies.
I have been. It's because they're all very good.
They're all very good.
Yeah. So
we're not going to get a podcast and be like, all right, y'all, here's the thing. Toy Story sucks. Worst film.
Do you want to do the other Toy Story movies eventually, or do you want to just sort of do a deep dive?
We gotta finish Harry Potter at some point.
That's true. That's really true.
We said we were gonna do that.
We haven't done... Yeah, it's been a real hot second since we did a Harry Potter.
Yeah, we should probably do the 4th Harry Potter next.
Yeah, that'll be our next week.
Alright, cool. Anyway, back to Media Res.
This movie, just right off the bat, I want to point out that one of these like weird things that I always think is super interesting is that Joss Whedon is one of the screenwriters on this movie.
Before he hated women.
I guess, I don't know.
Or maybe
no
during.
takes from Jackson on that. I haven't done my research. But apparently I
haven't either. I just learned that that's a thing.
But he apparently for a long time in the 90s he wasn't like a successful like director, screenwriter, television producer or whatever. He was like he was a script doctor. So, like, companies would just hire him to, like, come in when a script wasn't really working, and he'd just read it and be like, here's how you fix it. They
did that for Toy Story.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, like, that's the whole thing, is that they had so many problems with Toy Story during production.
Right. So, yeah, and so Joss Whedon was just one of the people that they brought in, that the company hired to be like, hey, we have this script and it sucks, so just, like, can you, like, fix it for us?
Yeah.
No, which I think is just super interesting.
Every Pixar documentary you watch that even talks about Pixar just, like, talks about how much they struggled to make this movie. Like, it's because basically the whole film, until they get to Sid's house, there's not really a protagonist and an antagonist. It's just Woody and Buzz having that conflict. Mm-hmm. And that conflict makes Woody kind of unlikable until he gets redeemed later in the film. Yeah. So that opening part of the film was just so antagonistic and didn't work at all for so long. Because it was just Woody yelling at everybody, and then Buzz being like, hey, fuck you. Yeah. And that was just the whole film. And they're like, why don't kids like this? Right. Like, they would just, like, they would work out all day, sit back, and, like, watch the storyboards, and it's just two men yelling at each other. And they're like, this isn't good. We should do something else.
Something's not working here.
Yeah, why did
Speaking
I like
of,
this?
though, I just gotta say, Tom Hanks is so fucking funny in this movie.
He's so good in this, yeah.
I feel like Tom Hanks doesn't really get to be quite as funny in any of the sequels because he doesn't play quite as, like, broad of a role, you know?
Well, he becomes the voice of reason in the dynamic of the toys. And this movie, he's definitely not the voice of reason. This movie, he's kind of this is kind of Woody's origin story a little bit. Because all the rest of the films, Toy Story is preaching the toy gospel and being like, this is the toy life, this is what we do. Right. Hell yeah, toy stuff. And then in this movie, he's like, but I want to be the favorite toy. Why aren't I the favorite toy? Yeah. And then after this movie, he's like, it's about the kids. It's not about being the favorite, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And I was going to say, and he is, like, the voice of reason at the beginning of the movie, too. I think what's interesting is that his arc is just sort of like him... Because one of the things about the Toy Story movies, all of them except for the third one for no reason, are, like, all totally revolve around Woody's, like, insecurity as a toy. Mm-hmm. Like, the first one is like, oh no, Buzz is here.
What if the third one totally does? What are you talking about?
I just watched it. In what way? Okay, let me continue.
Okay, you say your thing first.
The first one is like, oh no, Buzz is here. What if Andy doesn't like me anymore? The second one is like, oh no, I've got a rip in my arm. What if Andy doesn't like me anymore?
Man, this rips.
No, rips is good, I thought. I don't know, whatever.
Oh, I thought it was... I thought tigers just didn't give a rip.
When he gets a rip on his arm, he's like, oh yeah, it's fucking rips. Just tearing my arm. Rips shit. It's so cool. Anyway, and the fourth one is all about, like, oh, suddenly he's not, like, the star toy anymore, and he, like, Bonnie doesn't really care as much about him, so he becomes insecure about, like, his place and the dynamic and all that. But Toy Story 3 is just, like, it's a structured debate. Toy Story 3, the
I'm pro your con.
Yeah.
We just watched the Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode about this, Jackson.
Right. I mean, I guess it is about Woody being insecure about, like, Andy not playing with him anymore because he's older now. But it's not his specific insecurity. It's an insecurity that's shared by everyone, you know? Well, it's not an arc that's unique to him, is what I'm trying to say.
I think they're all a little bit supposed to be applied to all the toys. I mean, looking at the first one, the whole thing is that Woody is the favorite toy, and that's, like, a big deal. When he's not the favorite toy anymore, he gets this mad jealousy, and the movie starts. And Mr. Potato Head kind of has that throwaway line where he's like, what if Andy plays more with me? Are you going to throw me away? Like, right. I feel like there is that kind of... There is a little bit of competition in between the toys, especially because at the beginning of the movie, where we have the birthday party, all of the toys are freaking out, and they send people down, and they are scared, and they are worried.
You're right.
Because they think they're going to be replaced by new toys. And then at the end of the movie at Christmas, that stress is totally gone. Everyone is totally happy to see if there's new toys or whatever new thing is going to happen.
Right, yeah.
So I think while we are focusing on Woody, I think all of the themes are supposed to apply to the other toys. And I think the third movie is really just hammering it into the whole group instead of just focusing on one of them. Because on Toy Story 2, also, it's that whole thing about, like, self-preservation over helping others, kind of.
Right,
It's been a while since I watched Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
But because you have Jessie, who's been abandoned, and you have Woody, who doesn't want to be abandoned.
Right.
And I had a point of what I was talking about, and I've lost it.
Well,
and
it's
trying
also...
to remember what happened to Toy Story 2.
Right. And it's kind of interesting how, like, in Toy Story 2... they decided, like, or I don't know, maybe they just figured out, it's like, oh, we can get, like, really fucking real with this. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's kind of interesting, like, how much I associate that level of realness with the Toy Story franchise about just being, super serious about, like, abandonment and trauma and all these kinds of things.
Dude,
but the
Jessie
first one
is maybe one of the best female animated characters of all time. Jessie is an awesome character.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, I think that the first the first movie just doesn't really have the same level of realness as all the other ones do.
Oh no,
like,
absolutely not.
It's got like it's got a really well motivated conflict, but it's like still a pretty breezy movie, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just because of where Pixar was as a company at the time, and because they struggled so much with the project, that you're like, we have to make a story that works, period, and we're struggling with it. Like, there's no way they were gonna make it, like go farther and, like, test the limits when they couldn't even, like, get the basics down. So I think, that's just a matter of history.
Yeah. And it's also kind of interesting because, God, it's been so long since I've seen Bug's Life, but, like, I think Pixar is kind of known just in general for, like, grappling with really big concepts, right? It's like, that's sort of their brand at this point, is, like, the, like, really intense and really serious, like, emotional stakes attached to these stories. I'm trying to think if Toy Story was the movie, or, like, Toy Story 2 was the movie that, like, cemented that as their sort of shtick. What is Bug's Life like? Does Bug's Life have, like, intense emotional stakes?
Bug's Life is literally communist propaganda.
Right. That's not what I was asking, though.
Sorry, what were you asking?
Do they have, like, really intense emotional stakes in Bug's Life?
I mean, it is because it's not personal stakes, it's more of, like, community stakes.
Right.
Because they established the ants as a community, as, like, a family, and they established all the other bugs that come in as a family. And so then when you have the antagonists, which are the crickets who are coming in and they're gonna start basically killing people and stuff, there is a level of seriousness. It's more of, like, a war movie than it is, like, a character movie. It's more like Independence Day than, like, Friends, you know? I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Like,
have you seen Independence Day?
No, I haven't. I just know Will Smith gives a speech about this is our Independence Day, but from aliens instead of the British.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
Should I do it? I'm not going to do an impression of Will Smith. That's probably a bad idea.
You know how it's Independence Day? But what if that was, like, for aliens? Because we're being invaded by aliens? Are you with me, guys?
Do you want to talk about how this movie looks?
It's not bad.
It could be a lot worse.
It could be a lot worse, especially for the time, and especially looking at other Pixar projects at the time. Like, the little, like, what was basically the test for Toy Story, that little animated short film with the toy drummer and the baby. Right. That fucking sucks. Like, I know it's a part of animation history, but it's bad. It's really bad. Have you seen that fucking baby?
Yeah, I have.
It's Nightmare on Elm Street City.
It's not... Okay. I don't know, I'm just laughing at Nightmare on Elm Street City because it doesn't make any sense. So I continue.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. I just like to say words sometimes. I tried out some new words in a new order, and I was seeing if it was funny.
I laughed at it. It was funny.
Yeah, so shut up.
So I wasn't ridiculing you. I was appreciating.
Write that down. Nightmare on Elm Street City. Very funny. Use those words in that order again sometime.
Continue to say that all the time.
All the time. Never stop.
But yeah, so anyway. I think what makes this movie watchable is the fact that, like, the animation itself is so competent. Like, the way that things...
of the time.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's what I think is so funny. Because, like, the way that Woody moves is incredible. Like, when he's, like, being picked up and moved around, the way his limbs, like, kind of swing around, and, like, when he's moving...
Woody run.
Yeah, and it's, like, there's so much attention put into him and the way he moves that keep you from being distracted by the visuals, you know? Mm-hmm. But the same cannot be said for example, Andy's mom, who it's like whenever she's on screen, you know, like in terms of like models, she looks as good as any other person. Yeah. But the way she moves, you can tell there's like way fewer keyframes in the way that she moves, you know? Like she just moves like a bad computer program.
Yeah. Okay, Andy looks way better than Sid does, just like from a design standpoint. Why do they both have monster peanut heads, though? They both look like Jimmy Neutron, and Jimmy Neutron is a nightmare.
They do have weird heads. And I also want to say that everybody's mouth is kind of whack in this movie.
It's weird. Well, Sid has, like, scary teeth, because he's got, like, braces. And that's, like, a part of it, but, like, still.
No, yeah, but, like, if you ever, like, find yourself, like, looking at, like, the corners of their mouths... like the intersections of their two lips, you're like, that doesn't work. There's something needs to be done about this.
I mean, honestly, what I noticed the most that made it look dated was that the textures were not that great.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because Pixar has just fucking nailed textures recently.
Yeah.
Like, whatever the, like, wall that you have to get through to, like, make textures look like reality, they, like, broke that.
Yeah.
And they're like, they nail it. Like, everything in Toy Story 4 looks exactly like it's supposed to, and it's freaking amazing. And then you go back to Toy Story 1, and everything's just, like, a little bit off, or, like, colored a little bit weird, or, like, doesn't perfectly match with everything that's around it.
Yeah.
So, like, the animation is still great. It's just the texture is just a little bit off.
Yeah, no, there's a shot I made a note of, which is, like, that moment where, like, Andy's mom comes out and she's like, I have chips, and she, like, steps out one of the army men. That door has pixels on it that are, like, the size of quarters. They're enormous. Like, if you ever, like, make a note of that shot, like, seriously, it's real bad.
I remember...
Looks like Minecraft.
I remember being, like, 14 and being, like, really sick.
Yeah.
And watching Toy Story. And then crying when one of the army men gets left behind.
Like, what do they leave behind an army man?
Well, no, because he gets injured, and he's like, go on without me. Right. And he's like, we never leave anyone behind. And I was just, like, sick out of my mind. And I was just, like, I just cried a little bit. And even in the moment, I was like, why the hell am I crying? I'm too emotionally invested in this right now.
Right. I think it's kind of interesting. Just, I don't know. It's one of those things that's like, this is like such a long running and beloved series that like, you feel like you know like what it's like, what the tone is and the way that it's written. Like, you feel really familiar with it, you know? Mm-hmm. But like, when you go back and watch like the very first one and it doesn't totally mesh with the tone of all the later ones.
Oh, yeah.
And it sticks out. Like, the very beginning of this movie is like 75% like one-liner puns about the fact that they're toys. Like, which is just like so not what the rest of the movies are.
I just think it's weird because at the beginning they have like the staff meeting and there's this kind of throwaway joke about like a plastic erasure like seminar or something. Like, there's just like a throwaway joke.
Yeah.
But it's like corrosion. This like, I mean, Woody has always been the leader and he's the leader in all of the movies, but they haven't been like a business community type thing that they kind of are in this movie. That's a little bit weird. And, like, when they attack Sid, there's this line where, like, Woody's like, we're gonna have to break some rules. Like, it's weird. It's kind of, like, corporate.
Yeah, no, there's a little bit of that vibe.
Then it's not in the other movies. In the other movies, it's absolutely, like, we're a family and we all work together and we all work to protect each other. In this movie, it feels like a little bit more of, like, a business relationship.
Yeah, it's like they all work together at the office.
And that's probably why they're all so mean to each other.
Right, yeah. No, and you know, and I also just like to think that Woody is the one who puts on all these seminars and nobody fucking wants to go to them, but he makes them, like, and he just talks about plastic corrosion awareness while everybody rolls their eyes at him.
He did it. They were all down. They all went to it. It was a success.
Oh, that's true. Or was it really, or is he just like...
Or is he just saying...
I thought it was great. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Or it's one of those things where it's like...
wrote a seminar and we're going to listen to it.
Yeah, it's like, they let me finish talking, so to me, that's a success.
Yep. You freaking animals.
But yeah, like, at the very beginning, it's like... Mr. Potato Head's like, look, I'm Picasso. And Ham's like, I don't get it. He's like, you uncultured swine, because he's a pig, haha. And then, like, Bo Peep is like, oh, why don't you come talk to me? I'm always just a few blocks away. When she passes some blocks, and you're like, haha, that's good. And you're like, why is so much of the movie just this? Like,
what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah. There's just a couple of lines that I want to point out that get me, like, every single time I watch this movie. Yeah. Is when they're all freaking out about the presents at the very beginning, and Woody says something like, okay, if we listen in and you see, will you all just calm down? And Rex is like, yes, we'll calm down, we promise. And I think that's so funny.
There's one that I noticed that was really funny. It's when they first find out there's a birthday party and Woody's just talking to Slinky, and he's like, go get everybody, but go get everybody. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll go get everybody. He's like, but be happy about it. And then the Slink walks away. You just hear him going, and it's really good
too. No, and my other favorite one is when they're like listening to all the presents unwrapping, and the other guy's like, it's bed sheets, and Mr. Potato Head's like, who invited that kid?
Yeah.
I thought that was really great too.
I was just thinking about it because we just watched Toy Story 4, which has a lot, I would say feminist mode, but it has a lot of strong female characters in it.
Right.
And then going back to the first movie, there's just like no female characters in this whole movie except for Bo Peep. There's Bo Peep and Sid's little sister and Andy's mom and Andy's little sister, and that's like it.
No, yeah, and it's totally like the classic cartoon, like, this one's the girl thing, you know?
Yeah, this is the girl thing. She likes the protagonist.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's the, like...
Go ahead.
It's like, it's not bad, because none of the characters are bad, but that's only because they're not really characters.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there are women here, and they're not bad women characters, so it's like, yeah, you did it, you're good.
Right. And yeah, you know, that was something that our family was talking about after we finished Toy Story 4, was like, we were saying, like, oh, like, Bo Peep's character was, like, so totally different in that than it was in the earlier ones. But, like, when I went back and watched him afterwards, it was like... I mean, not really, because she just, like, didn't really have a lot of character, you know? Like, that could have been her character this whole time, and we wouldn't have really known it, so.
I mean, you still see a little bit of that, like, to say a trope that I don't really think applies, but you can still see that kind of strong female character in there. Because, like, when they're all ganging up on Woody and want to throw him out the window, she's like, hey, guys, could you shut up and stop for a minute?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure.
Like, you can tell that there is a character there, and she definitely does... she, like, progressively does a little bit more in each movie until you get to Toy Story 4. Like, in Toy Story 2, she's, like, a part of the mission for a little bit, and she's, like, in charge when they go rescue. Oh, is she not? I thought
she stays at home.
Well, she stays at home, and so does... There is a line where they're like, hey, Mrs. Potato Head and Bo Peep, you guys stay here. Isn't that, like, a line?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, but when they go to rescue Penguin Man from the garage sale, isn't she, like... kind of in charge for that?
No.
Never mind that.
No, yeah, pretty much not at all. Sorry, I don't want to shoot you down, but I did just watch that movie yesterday, and I can in fact attest that she doesn't really do anything in that movie.
All right, cool, never mind that. But still, you still see a little bit more of her until you get to Toy Story 4.
Well, she's not in Toy Story 3.
And then, fuck you.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, another thing about this
Welcome to the Jackson Show, starring Jackson.
Do you want me to just... Would you rather I said so right now, or would I rather you just... I was just like, yeah. Just let you continue to say wrong things on my podcast. My podcast starring me.
So you want to keep digging this hole, or do you want...
But anyway, another one of the things that I feel like is sort of part of the DNA of Toy Story is, like, heist elements.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Which isn't really a part of this one as much as it is the other ones. Like, it feels like every big set piece in every Toy Story movie is all about, like, you know, sneaking around and, like, not being caught and, like, breaking people out of things and all these kinds of ideas. But the first one, there's not really a lot of stealth elements in it, you know?
No, in fact, it's kind of... The two big action set pieces are kind of literally the opposite of everything that we see in the other films. Like, the first one being where they take out Sid is literally them breaking all of the rules of being a toy and scaring the crap out of him. Which is a very cool scene, but it's just, like, nothing we ever see after that. And then the second action set piece is basically a car chase with a rocket. And it's dope as hell, but it's just, again, it's not something we ever see again. Like, there's no other car chases in Toy Story.
And it's like,
That's a lie. There is the part in Toy Story 2 where they drive the car, so never mind. Car chases are very much a part of this.
But, like, the point is that it's not, like, stealth-based at all. There's, like, no mention of, like, trying not to be seen or anything. They're just flying through traffic, like, with no safety net, just, like... I don't know, whatever. It's more important than
that. What if they see us? What the fuck are they gonna do?
And that's sort of something that I like about Toy Story, is that, like, would be so easy to write a script where it's like, oh, and then a person finds out that the toys are alive and they have to keep it a secret, and, like, which would just be dumb. Like, and I'm really glad that that's not, like, part of the formula of it. That's not something that you ever, like, even are really thinking about when you're watching the movies, you know, because it's so much, like, not a part of it.
Well, I think that's, again, just a history fact of where Pixar was. Like, they were not at the point in animation where having an animated story with a human main character. Like, that wasn't even a possibility of a thing that they could do without it being creepy and weird. Like,
I mean, like, moving forward, though, like, in all of them.
It's like afterwards,
It's not part of the identity of it that it's like, oh no, like, we have to keep ourselves a secret because if the humans find out, they'll never let us be, or whatever the fuck, something stupid like that. That's what...
Well, it's like, you think that would be a part of it with Buzz, because the whole thing is that he doesn't know that he's a toy.
Right.
So you feel like that would be a danger of, that would probably be part of the story, like, oh, we gotta keep Buzz under control because he's gonna screw this all up.
Right.
But then they don't, and that doesn't happen. So.
I know. And it's so funny to me. I mean, this is, like, kind of a plot hole-y thing, but it's like, I mean, first of all, the, like, big famous plot hole is, like, if Buzz doesn't know he's a toy, why does he stand still when Andy comes in? But aside from that, I think it's so funny in all these movies how many, like, incredibly close calls they have with, like, being seen. And yet... Nobody in the entire history of the world has ever uncovered the fact that toys are alive. Like, Woody has almost been caught, by himself, 40 times.
Yeah, do you ever think of, like, the first teddy bear that was ever made? Like, what the hell's going through his brain?
Right. So I have a question for you, Adeline.
Yeah, hello.
So do you think that all toys don't know they're toys when they're first created, or do you think... it is like a case-by-case basis, and like Buzz is different?
I think it depends on the type of toy.
Right.
Like if it's a merchandise toy versus just like a basic toy. Like if you buy a teddy bear, the teddy bear's gonna be like, "What's up? I'm a teddy bear." But if you buy like a Stormtrooper action figure, I think he's gonna be like, "I'm a Stormtrooper. What's up?"
Right. Whether or not it has like a backstory attached to it.
Yeah, exactly.
As a
think
product.
If you are like a licensed toy that like has a story attached to it, I think you're going to be a part of that story in your head. Versus if you just bought some like, just like non-brand, just like toys, they're going to be like, "What's up? I'm a toy."
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. There are some things I have written down that I would probably just want to say for when we do Toy Story 2 inevitably. I mean,
I personally, I like Toy Story 2 more than I like Toy Story 1.
Yeah. No, and now that I've gone through and looked at all of them, I do think the first one is honestly the weakest of them.
Oh,
because,
definitely.
Like, it's just... I'm trying to think. Like, Toy Story 2 has this really, really strong emotional core.
Oh, totally.
And, like, Toy Story 3, like, that emotional through line isn't quite as strong as it is in Toy Story 2. But, like, it has, like, the two moments at the end that are so beautiful, like, when they're going into the furnace and also when they're getting given away at the end, that are just beautiful. And also, Toy Story 3, I think, has some of the best, like, and most creative, like, visual gags and storytelling ideas in any of them.
Oh, totally.
Like, I think it's the most creative of the three, for sure. And then Toy Story 4 is, like, kind of, like, a little bit of everything. I think it's, like, very middle of the road as far as, like, those two go. Anyway, just, you know, I'm just going to talk about other movies for a while.
Yeah, real quick. Because we've never done that ever before on our podcast.
Okay. There's a moment in this where Buzz, like, when Buzz gets knocked out of the window, and they use the Wilhelm scream, which doesn't sound like Buzz at all. And I'm at this point now where I'm just like, I'm so sick of it. I don't like the Wilhelm scream.
Okay, where did the Wilhelm scream, like, actually come from? Like, what was the first?
I think it was Star Wars. I think the scream comes from Star Wars, is where it was recorded for originally. I'm not going to check. That's just what I think.
Okay, I'm going to check because I would like to know. For real?
It's just, like, this weird, like, tongue-in-cheek in-joke that, like, every movie does now. And it's like, it just takes me out of it every single time. Like, whenever I hear that in the big battle screen. Yeah, it doesn't matter what
it's in.
Yeah, I'm just like, that was the one, that was the Wilhelm scream, and now I'm just thinking about the fact that you put that in there because you thought it was funny. Like...
Oh, Jackson, it's from a movie called The Charge at Feather River, a 1953 Western in which the character gets shot in the thigh with an arrow. This was the first use from the Warner Brothers stock sound library, although The Charge at Feather is believed to have been the third film to use the effect. What was the first film? From a series of found sex recorded in 1951 movie, Distant Drums. In a scene from the film, soldiers are wading through a swamp in the Everglades, and one of them is bitten and dragged under wire by an alligator. The scream for that scene was recorded later in a single take, along with five other short, pain screams, which were labeled "Man Game Bit by an Alligator and He Screamed." The fifth scream was used for the soldier in the alligator
Wilhelm
scene.
Scream and not the man gets hit by a crocodile and screams scream.
The fifth scream was used for the soldier in the alligator scene, but the fourth, fifth, sixth screams were recorded into session were also used earlier in the film, when 3 Native Americans are shot during a raid on the fort. Yikes. Although takes 4, 5, and 6 are the most recognizable, all the screams are referred to as Wilhelm by those in the sound community. Okay, so these are just some weird random sound effects that were recorded in the 50s.
That for some reason
we just... as a society, have just decided that it's really funny.
Right. Oh, and just another little thing I wrote down as far as, like, sort of the ideological differences between this first movie and all the sequels is that, like, all the other movies love to get creative with, like, other sort of family units of toys in the world. Like, the fact that they go to Pizza Planet and in the claw machine is, like, just a whole bunch of uniform guys that are all exactly the same would not have ever happened in any of the sequels. Like, if they were making today, it would have been, like, a whole bunch of really unique sci-fi toys who have these all voiced by, like, underrated character actors that you kind of know, and, like, all, like, have their own really unique personalities and banter off each other in a really fun way,
they're all
you know?
Keanu Reeves.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, but, I mean, you do get that with the Toys and Sid room.
That's true.
And you don't get character actors or anything, and we don't get a lot of their personality. I'll agree with you there, but like there definitely is a community there, and they're all trying to help each other. So I think the reason that Toy Story is the weakest is because you have all of the seeds for things that eventually become staples in Toy Story films.
Right.
So ignore the metaphor of seeds and staples, but like all the stuff that's in Toy Story, while it's still really good, is just very weak, and that's just because of all the problems that they had in pre-production.
Right, yeah.
And so then when you get to Toy Story 2, where they're definitely a lot more sure of themselves and can do a lot more things and have a foundation already built, that's when all of those themes that we kind of got in the first movie, like, actually come to fruition or actually strong and, like, make the franchise something that can be a franchise.
Right. And, yeah, I mean, I feel like Toy Story, the original one, like, it's... biggest strength is really just that it's just a fucking good screenplay. Like,
I mean, yeah,
it's not like anything super groundbreaking or exciting, but it's just like I think it's one of the best screenplays of the 90s. Like, it's just so tight, because this movie's 81 minutes long, which is insane.
It's a short film.
And everything's just so tight, and there's never a wasted moment. And you're just like constantly, like, everything anybody says, like, gives you little insights into their characters. And, like, the dynamic between Woody and Buzz.
Woody Buzz?
The dynamic of Woody Buzz, their wonderful ship name, is just, like, it's so, like, there's just such, like, a genuine tension to it, and everything feels really well motivated, and, like, the climax is, like, full of all these great little Chekhov's guns where you're, like, calling back to ideas earlier in the movie, and it's just, like, everything fits together, like, so perfectly, and it makes it just, like, a really good movie, you know?
Yeah, it does. I got a question. I actually don't have a question for you. I'm going to talk at you. I'm going to do the opposite of what you usually do.
Okay.
So there is this is a very popular internet theory where when Sid, not Sid, I'm going to get their names confused. When Andy gets home from Pizza Planet and he can't find Woody or Buzz, and he goes to bed and he's super sad, and his mom hands him the cowboy hat and he goes to sleep. That cowboy hat isn't Woody's hat, it's Jesse's hat in the next movie. And so everyone thought, oh, that means that Andy's mom is the girl who gave Jesse away.
Right.
And I don't think that's what that means.
Yeah, I don't know if the timeline works out on that.
Yeah, I just think it cements the fact that Woody used to be the mom's toy. Because... She wouldn't have a boy cowboy hat. She would have a cowgirl hat. Even if she had a Woody doll, she would still want the girl hat.
Yeah, I like that better. I like that Woody was the mom's toy.
Yeah, well, because we talked about that earlier when we saw Toy Story 4. It's like, because Woody talks so much in that film about Andy and the babies and stuff, like, to this really far point. He's like, You've been the favorite since kindergarten, and you've seen all the stuff with the baby sister. Like, he knows everything. Like, it's heavily implied that Woody has been with Andy for a really long time. But in the second movie, we also established that he was made in, like, the 50s. Right. So there's, like, this gap that they don't talk about. And I think that gap is just the fact that he was a family toy. He was probably Andy's mom's toy.
Right, yeah. No, yeah, I like that theory better than that Jesse was the mom's toy.
Yeah, I don't know, especially because the mom, the girl who gives Jesse away is definitely like a redhead or blonde, and the mom is a brunette until the third movie.
And it's one of those things that's just like, if they thought of that, why wouldn't they have just put that in the movie? Like, why would you just not say that? Like, what would be the point of that for anybody besides just to be obtuse and annoying?
Yeah, it's like if it was Andy's mom who gave away Jesse, I think they'd be like, and it was Andy's mom.
Right,
I feel like they would totally dig their heels in.
Yeah. I wrote down, what the fuck is up with Pizza Planet?
Yeah, what the fuck is up with Pizza Planet?
Like, what kind of nightmare place is that?
That's the coolest restaurant in the whole world.
It's just like, I don't know, it just stresses me out to look at. Like,
I mean, it's supposed to be like Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
But we never see the restaurant part of it, and I'm sure that's just because we don't need to.
No, because the big aliens are puking soda into that kid's cup.
What?
There's aliens that he hits the button and they're like, bleh, and like a whole bunch of green glowing radioactive liquid comes out of their mouths, and some kid's got his cup. Yeah, Slurpee or whatever. Yeah. It's radioactive and he'll get a third arm and then die.
Okay. What are you talking about?
Pizza Planet's fucking gross and it stresses me out.
Okay.
Why do you like it? Do you want to hang out there?
Well, there's like, it feels like a Disneyland restaurant. Like, there's so much like sound effects and being like, are you hungry for pizza? Boarding at room 3. Like, in order for Buzz to like think that this is a real space station, there's so much like play acting that's involved with the restaurant itself.
Right, yeah.
But that's not Woody like making the world, like changing the world for Buzz. That's just what the world's like already.
I don't know. Weird. My point is not that it's a bad filmmaking decision. It's just that I don't want to hang out at Pizza Planet. I think I'd rather die than go in there. Okay, you don't have to go to
Pizza Planet. I'll go to Pizza Planet by myself.
By the way, how is it possible that the pizza place in Tomorrowland is still called Planet Pizza?
I don't know.
How could that possibly be in 2019?
Listen, they don't know what they're doing with the world of tomorrow. At this point, they're just like, there's stuff here. There's some Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, they can't decide if they want to go whole hog on Star Wars.
So, fuck it. It's not Pizza Planet. It's Planet Pizza,
Planet
Jackson.
Pizza still.
Because we're going to burn it to the ground eventually.
Right. Someday that'll be the Mos Eisley Cantina, and until then.
I think the CEO of Disney, just like at 3 a.m. before the park opens, just stands in the middle of the Land of Tomorrow and just cries and screams and pounds the ground.
I like it better if he's like the John Travolta from Pulp Fiction meme, where he's just like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this? Like, he's not too emotionally invested, but he's just like, something's gotta change with this. Like,
something's not working here. It's definitely haunted, because that kid got crushed in the world of tomorrow.
That's right, the House of Tomorrow. I was gonna say, didn't they say that happened multiple times, though? Oh,
I'm sure it has. Because the World Tomorrow, they have, like, that stage that has, like, the different future scenes that, like, rotates. And then some kid got, like, stuck in between the wall and the moving wall and got, like, squished. And torn if you said, half. Like, oh, that happens once a week, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I get it.
I remember, I always think I want to look up, like, statistics about people who die at Disneyland, but then I decide I don't want to. But Dad always does whenever we go. And what he said to me is basically just, like, in the last, like, 30 years, only, like, a dozen people have died at Disneyland. And, like, 4 of them were, like, people trying to climb on the monorail tracks and falling off and dying, which is crazy.
I know this because we talk about it every time we go to Disneyland.
Right.
There's only, like, a dozen deaths, and, like, 8 of them, like, the majority of them are from one single event where it was the Thunder Mountain Railroad. What is it called? Rocky Mountain Railroad, whatever it's called.
Big Thunder Rocky Road transmission...
Yeah, transmission problem.
Transmission was a bad word. Hold on.
Yeah, why did you say transmission?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's got 2 tracks. One track is the ride, and then there's like a storage track that it can go into when they need to put into storage or whatever.
Right.
But some problem happened where it shut off like it was going to go on the actual ride, but then it went into the storage, and it just like killed everybody that was on it.
Yeah, it just like hit a wall.
And so like that was like a big event that killed a bunch of people. And then after that, it's people climbing on the monorail, and then there's like not really anything after that. Except
climbing on the monorail and getting squished in the House of Tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, because actually, apparently, if you want to have a medical emergency, Disneyland is the place to have it because they want to get you out of there ASAP because they have enough ghosts and they don't want another one.
Well, because they know that they keep statistics on it. Like, if you have a heart attack at Disneyland, they're like, if he dies right here, it's going on the website. So get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they have an ambulance there in like 5 seconds and you are at the hospital so you can die there where you're supposed to.
I don't really have anything else written down about Toy Story 1.
I mean, the only thing that I've written down is that as good as Woody's mannerisms are, if you kind of look at, like, everybody else's mannerisms at certain points, they'll do weird things that don't look natural or emote at all.
Right.
Like, there's the scene where Woody's at the window with Buzz's arm, and he's, like, doing that little acting thing, and then he messes up, and everybody sees the severed arm. And Bo Peep, like, screams, but she, like, makes this weird, like, pose and just, like, vibrates, and it looks bad. It looks like a TF2 joke animation.
Right, yeah. I was gonna say, maybe I need to watch it again and just keep an eye on all the background characters and see what they look like when they're moving around.
Well, it's like even like Andy or Andy's mom, or like every once in a while, like even Woody will like just like deliver a line in a really weird pose, and I'm like, why did you do that?
Yeah. Have you seen that video on YouTube where somebody did a feature-length recreation of Toy Story in live action with actual like toys?
No, I haven't.
It's kind of interesting.
Is it good?
I mean, I don't know if I describe it as good. It's just like, it's like somebody in his hands, like in the shot, he's just like moving them around.
Yeah.
But I think he takes the audio from the movie and he just recreates the video in live action with toys.
Okay. So this is a video that's definitely a joke video, but you got some real meaning from it.
I mean, not really. I don't know. Hold on. I'm going to look at it right now.
Okay, cool.
It's on a channel called, one second, JP and Beyond.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a shit post, if that's what you're saying. It's
okay.
This description is like, the whole movie in real life, ! Thank you for watching and sharing this movie with fellow Toy Story fans. To learn more about us, like, they're like taking it really seriously.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. Like, it's funny just to like see it in this like mediocre like home video kind of way, you know?
Yeah. Are you just watching it now?
Yeah, I'm watching this scene where they're on the car and it's really good.
Does he actually tie a Buzz Lightyear to a rocket?
I don't know, I haven't gotten to the rocket part.
Do you like the way that I said Clyde?
Yeah, okay, hold on, I want to see what this flying looks like.
Okay, cool.
Oh god, so good.
What does he do?
It's just like shot from underneath, so you can only see the sky above them, and then they cut to like whenever there's a shot from like up above down at the cars, they're just like little tiny Hot Wheels on like a little road.
You know what? Really that's good. Fair.
Yeah, it's worth watching, I think. Also, by the way, I just want to say, the little guy who's binoculars, I miss him.
Yeah, best character.
He's the best character. His name is Lenny.
Yeah, he's the best character.
Also, the car with legs instead of wheels. Also the best character in Sid's room.
I like Baby Head Robot. I like him.
Baby Head Robot is also very good. They deserve better. I wish they were in all the Toy Story sequels.
Yeah, why does Andy get Jessie and Bullseye? Why doesn't he get Baby Head Crab Robot?
Yeah, he should have taken them all under his wing. I guess there's not really any resolution for all those toys. Like,
not even a little bit.
I mean, I guess he presumably would get rid of them after they attacked him.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of implied that they went with the sister.
Maybe.
Just because she kind of like starts antagonizing him at the end of the movie, which he totally deserves. And it's a fun little switch of what we saw in the beginning of the film.
So yeah, I guess he just has a phobia of toys moving forward, and he'll be crippled for the rest of his life.
And then in Toy Story 3, he's a trash man, Jackson.
Yeah, he seems pretty happy in that one, though.
Yeah, he's fine. Dude, he gets paid well. He's got insurance. He's a trash man. They get paid well.
So what do you think about... I think this is the first time we've done a Pixar movie on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the whole interconnected Pixar universe theory?
I personally think it's really stupid and I don't like it.
I mean, I'm not against it per se. I think they definitely weren't doing it from the very beginning. That's for dang sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
But they are, like, leaning so hard into it now that, like, every Pixar movie that comes out after, like, 2015 is just, like, every, like, 20 minutes you're just, like, they, like, put the pin from up on screen in a really prominent place, and you're like, okay, fucking, yeah, that's the pin from up. Good for you.
Well, I don't think that's them being like, it's the same universe. I just think those are Easter eggs.
Like, right. No, but there is still a little bit of that, like when Boo shows up in Toy Story 4, and they're, like, not subtle at all about it.
Well, but the whole thing is that in Monsters, Inc., Boo picks up a Jessie doll and hands it to Sully.
Right.
And so that's not Boo, but in Toy Story 4 has confirmed that Boo and Bonnie are different characters.
Oh, wait, was that a theory at one point?
I think it was. It was that Boo and Bonnie were the same people because Boo hands him that. But they're also different ages. I don't remember.
I mean, look, we don't know when Monsters, Inc. takes place. Monsters, Inc., I guess, took place in 2019. And
apparently.
And Boo was there at the park around
Boo's
the same time.
Like a baby. It doesn't talk. Bonnie's like 7, 6.
And I guess...
5. No, she starts kindergarten, so she's like 5 or 6.
Right. And, I mean, yeah, she's definitely older than Boo is.
Yeah, Boo is like 3 tops.
It's been a while since I've seen Monsters, Inc. I want to watch Monsters, Inc. again.
Boo is so cute.
Okay, should we do Toy Story, or should we just go through the Pixar catalog? I think that sounds really fun.
We should just go through the Pixar catalog. Every time I want to do an animated movie, you yell at me, so...
Yeah, but, I don't know. You want to do animated movies that aren't good, is the thing.
Well, because I have picked animated movies that aren't popular animated movies for the most part, because, like, I feel like we'll have a more original conversation about those than we would about... We've had a really good conversation about Toy Story.
Yeah.
But, like, the end of the day, the thesis is still gonna be Toy Story is really good, you know?
Right.
Like,
yeah, I don't know. And it all just comes back to
I would love to go through the Pixar catalog. I think that'd be a super cool series.
Yeah. I mean, it all just comes back to us wanting to be better at being positive about movies than we are at criticizing them, you know. And we say that all the time, and I feel like we are getting better about it. I mean, look at this. We just made a whole podcast about Toy Story, and it didn't get weird or stilted at all. So good for us. Pat on the back.
We didn't put on stilts or anything.
Do you want to move on into our next bit?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Did you not think of one again?
No.
Okay.
What are you talking about? What are you...
So, hey, welcome back to Jackson Talks About a Comic Book at the end of this podcast.
Where he talks about a comic book?
Yeah. There is a comic book going on right now that if you are even slightly in tune with any sort of comic book
if you have a pulse.
Yeah. Like, it's huge right now. It's House of X and Powers of 10 by Jonathan Hickman. It's the new, like, soft relaunch of the X-Men. That's so good. It's written by Jonathan Hickman, who is this writer who did a really famous Fantastic Four run and then a really famous Avengers run a few years after that, who writes with this, like, really dense, really, like, high concept sci-fi tone. That's just, like, he writes in this really interesting sort of way where he doesn't, like, give you exposition when you want it. He just doesn't tell you shit until it's, like, relevant, like,
until
immediately.
It's too late.
Pretty much. So, like, rather than, like, tell you everything that's happening as it's happening, he, like, just waits to give you information until there's a really satisfying place to put it. And sometimes that just means you kind of don't know what's happening, but it's, like, part of the suspense of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just being confused, you're like, oh, I don't know what's happening, and I'm really excited to find out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so the story, as of right now, there's a lot going on in it. But it has to do with the mutants all banding together and not really being split into separate factions anymore, and just exiling themselves to this island, which is also a mutant. The island itself is just a mutant who's a person who turned into an island, called Krakoa. And which is an older X-Men idea. That's not his.
Oh,
but,
gotcha.
But yeah, and it's all about like all these really fascinating like implications. Powers of 10 specifically deals with like this idea of they're like, oh, X-Men year 0, here's Professor Xavier like meeting all the kids at the beginning, and then like X-Men year 10, it's like the present day, quote unquote, and they pull weird comic book continuity where they're like, it's 10 years after that. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
whatever. And they're like, X-Men,
the X-Men timeline with my whole being. I hate it so much.
But and then they jump forward to X-Men year 100, and it's like all these characters from the future you don't even know, and they're like doing stuff, and you're like, what is this? What's going on? And they jump to X-Men year 1000, and it's like a whole different set of characters you don't know what they're doing, and you're like, how is this part of it? Like, how is this all going to come together at the end? What's going on
here?
But it's super cool. There's a specific issue that's really great is House of X #2, which I won't spoil it, but the point of it is that it just introduces this mutant whose mutant power is, what's the word? What do you call it when you die and you come back to life again?
Resurrection?
No. What's the word they use for it in, like, different religions? It's not resurrection.
It is.
No.
Metamorphosis?
No, what's the fucking word? Hold on.
When you come back as something else?
Yeah. What's that word?
Can't think of the word?
I know. It's like Hinduism they believe in.
Yeah. Rebirth.
I'm Googling Hinduism right now.
Hinduism is a religion. Then.
Yeah. What's the part of Hinduism where you come back as something else? My point is that when she dies, she comes back to life, but it's her own life, just like started over and over again. And through this mutant, he introduces like 10 different timelines of the X-Men story where she takes different actions each time. It's fucking crazy. So yeah, this is House of X and Powers of 10, and 10 is X, like the Roman numeral 10.
Yeah.
Wow. That's been coming out from Marvel Comics, written by Jonathan Hickman, drawn by Pepe Larraz and...
your boy Pepe.
What's the other guy's name? Something Silva. Hold on 1 second, I'm gonna look at it real quick.
Jackson just stood up and now he's going to look at his bookshelf. Maybe one day I'll do something funny when I do this, but it's not that day. I'm not doing anything funny. If I ever think of a joke, I'll tell you it. He's literally just going through his fucking bookshelf and trying to find this comic book. He's got like 3 of those like big boxes of comic books that he keeps all his comic books in. Literally just rifling through one of them trying to find this.
Sorry. R.B. Silva is his name. Sorry, it's just really important to me that I give credit to comic book creators whenever I can, because society never, ever, ever does.
Because society won't.
Yeah, like, for real, like, if you see a movie with a comic book name in the credits that's not Stan Lee or Jack Kirby, it's a rare occurrence, I just gotta say. And they don't get, like, paid for it most of the time when they get their work adapted. It's just, like, it's a whole thing. So I'm really passionate about giving comic book creators credit. Anyway, written by Jonathan Hickman, drawn by Pepe Larraz and R.B. Silva. Super great stuff. It's also just gorgeous. Jonathan Hickman, earlier in his career, was a professional graphic designer. So he has all these, like, crazy infographics that he puts in with these, like, dense, like, texts of, like, paragraphs of text that are just, like, explaining things to you that you need to know, but in, like, a really interesting and creative way where it's, like, written like these weird, like, scientific reports, you know? And it's like, it's almost like they're written for somebody who's more familiar with what's happening than you are, like, in canon, you know? So it's like, you'll, like, be learning about something that you need to know for the story, but then there'll be this, like, offhand remark that doesn't make any sense, and you're like, oh, what's that? I wonder what he's referring to with that. Like, I'm excited to find out what that is, you know? It's super cool, and the whole thing is, like, so mysterious, and just, I don't know, everybody on the planet's really excited about it right now who's into comic books. So House of X and Powers of 10, they're 2 miniseries that are part of one contiguous story that are coming out right now from Marvel, and I'm really excited about it.
Cool. And you really like it?
I really like it. You have to be on this podcast really too, Adeline, just to hit...
I know.
Okay.
I was... Never mind. Alright, so today I would like today Today I'm going to talk about Danny Gonzalez. He's very popular, so I'd be surprised if you don't know him. Actually, that's not true. I always think I know, like, what being popular means,
right.
And, like, in terms of just, like, being in, like, the popular conscious.
Right.
And I'm never right.
Right. And no, yeah, like Danny Gonzalez has, I think, like
2 million?
Somewhere between 2 and 3 million subscribers, yeah.
Yeah, I think
which
he's got
is,
like 2.8 or something.
Fairly big, but, like, still not huge, you know?
Yeah, like, if you just walked up to a person and you're like, do you know Danny Gonzalez? They'd be like, from school?
Right. I was going to say, we were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine the other day, and there was that episode where Gina is like, I have 1 million subscribers on something, and she's, like, renting out, like, television studios and, like, doing all this stuff. It's like, no. That is not enough subscribers to be doing that kind of thing.
I just have, like, no clue, like, what's actually popular and what's not popular. Because every time I'm like, oh, this is a popular thing. Everybody knows what this is. No one knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
And every time I'm like, no one watches this. And then it's like, everyone is watching this. But anyway, so Dan Gonzalez on YouTube, he is a YouTuber. He does commentary on a lot of internet things, on Instagrammers, on YouTubers, and more recently movies, or just anything he wants to talk about, he talks about. But on the side, he does comedy music, and the comedy music is really good. He released an album in 2019 that's Bump This, that's got 6 songs on it. But he also, on Spotify, he just has a lot of singles, and all of the singles are really, really good.
Yeah.
Jackson and I and our friends have a kind of honorary Christmas playlist that just has Danny Gonzalez's I'm Gonna Kill Santa Claus on it. Thank God 9/11 didn't happen on Christmas.
Yeah, by Gabe Gundecker.
And Peppermint Winter. It's a playlist of 3 songs, but they're all really good. But yeah, they're just hilarious. Like, something about the way that he writes music, like, even when the song is silly, it's still a bop.
Yeah.
Like, he just wrote this song because he had a huge copyright strike where any music that he put on his videos got copy stricken and he couldn't post that video anymore and he couldn't get paid for it. So he just wrote a song to play at the end of his videos for, like, an outro. And it's just a bop. Like, it's literally about nothing. The point of the song is that the video that you were watching is over. But, like, it's got, like, such a good beat to it, and Danny's, like, a pretty good singer that, like, you're kind of upset when the song ends after every single video that you watch.
Yeah.
Like, he's just super talented, and his songs are really good. And I always have a lot of respect for people that can write music and, like, do that stuff. Because personally, I just do not have the brain for it. So
Reincarnation.
Like, hey,
Reincarnation was the word we were thinking of.
You're right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was reincarnation. Continue.
Yeah, I just don't have the brain for writing music, so I'm always, like, blown away when other people can just write music.
Right.
And Danny's music is so funny. Like, I mean, he writes a song about slime YouTubers that's so really good. He has a song about Hop Out the Whip, which is a song about hopping out of your car and hopping back in.
It's so good. That's my favorite of his.
There's so many good. Yeah, that's Jackson's favorite. And just, like, I don't know. It's just, they're really nice to listen to. They're really catchy, and they're also really funny. And just because it's comedy music, it's just really easy to consume. It's not, It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take any energy in any way. So yeah, go check out Danny Gonzalez on Spotify.
Hey Adeline, do you want to hear I couldn't find a good 1-star review. This is a 1.5-star review of Toy Story.
Oh, okay.
This is by Dale R.S. Hutchinson on Letterboxd.com.
Oh, a full name.
Yeah. He says, this movie was my favorite as a kid. ... As a kid?
I'm a grown-up now. Now I like Pulp Fiction and drugs. Like a real man. I eat 20-pound steaks a day and lived my hot goth GF over my head.
Alright, my name's Jackson McMurray.
My name's Adeline McMurray.
And this is No Nerds Allowed.
There are no nerds allowed.
Boom.
That's the Treehouse Store slamming. That's the Tree Horse, Jackson.
Can our mascot for the podcast be the Tree Horse?
The Tree Horse.
Is that a horse in a tree or a horse with a tree coming out of it?
It's a horse made of trees.
Oh, a wooden horse, like the Trojan horse.
From Lord of the Rings, instead of a man, it's a horse.
Oh, interesting.